Hi guys. Let's talk about Winx Club, Winx Saga, the Netflix adaptation of the cartoon, that we used to watch as little kids. The nice, sweet, and bubbly show about kicking butt, fashion, and friends. Okay, let's talk about the other one, the Netflix version, not the decent one. So, basically, Winx Saga is like the complete opposite of Winx Club in like the worst ways possible. Like, it's lackluster with the fights. They're boring, to be honest. Horrible fashion. Like, that's kind of the whole biggest point of that was like the whole like that was like one of the main points of Winx Club, for it to be like cool, like really nice outfits, super cool transformations, decent fight scenes, kind of get you hype as a kid. And then the other thing that was kind of important was friendship, right? So in Winx Saga, the friendship is toxic. It's like non-existing, to be honest. Like, it's just really bad. It's not what you would want a friendship to be. It's just, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, the friendship was just seriously, like, if I could give a rating for this show on friendship, it would be 0. Then, not to forget, it's horribly dark and gritty without being really gritty, like without being a really gritty show. Like, it's just like really angsty for some weird reason. And I'm completely fine with it being a darker show, with it being more, set for like a higher age range or whatever. But they don't do anything to really make it that dark in like a cool way. They just do basically what every other teen show is doing, and I don't even understand how they're getting that to work out for them. But I don't know. I'm 23, so maybe I'm not the demographic that would be watching this. But even when I was a teenager, I feel as though this is not like the type of thing that I was watching. But I don't. And even if like a teenager is wanting to watch like something like this or something, something kind of sort of giving like that angsty, darker vibe, this just isn't the show. Forget the mood of the show. The show is just bad. So, to prepare for this craziness that I was about to take myself on, because I said I was going to try and watch more shows, and I heard that Winx Saga was bad, but I was like, everybody's watching it. I should watch it too, just to see. I should have never watched this show. Like, I mean, never. Okay, so I prepared myself by rewatching Winx Club, right? I watched the cartoon. I watched a couple of episodes. It was cute. It was fun. There was definitely some problems with this show, but, it's cute. It's a kid show. It's fine and dandy. So I rewatched the show, and then I read up on like some of the main plot lines of the show for the most part. And basically, yeah, this is the summary of basically how this all went down. So there were 5 fairies in the beginning. There was Bloom, Stella, Musa, Tecna, and Flora. And then Aisha came in season 2. And then there were 3 different schools. There was Cloud Tower, which was for the witches. There was Althea, which was for fairies. And then there was the Red Fountain School. I never even knew that school had a name. I had to look that up. For the specialists. And then one more thing that's kind of important is this whole barrier thing. I know that like it's the first thing that pops up in the show. Like in the Netflix adaptation, it's the first thing that pops up, and it irks me so bad. Like, I was absolutely done with the show as soon as I saw this. But let me not get ahead of myself. The third thing that happens in the Winx Club cartoon is there's a barrier that keeps humans out of the magical world. So, to have a couple of comparisons, of how this all went down in the Netflix show. They basically just got rid of Tekna. They put Aisha in the first season, which I'm not mad at that. Then Flora was replaced with Tara. But to be honest, it's just the fact that I have this on, like, I'm looking at the name, because I really would not remember her name whatsoever. So in my head, she's Flora number 2. So if I start calling her that, that's her name in my head. So yeah, so they replaced Flora with Flora number 2. And then now there's only one school where there's fairies and specialists, and it's a co-ed type of thing or whatever, which is fine, you know, cool. There might be like some guy fairies or like some girl specialists or whatever, you know, cool, fine and dandy. But why is it one school? It just doesn't make sense. Why would the school that like the fairies go to be the same school that the people who are specialists go to? I'm not really it's just not, I'm not putting the 2 and 2 together as to how that's working out. And then they completely got rid of the witches school. Maybe they'll put that, I mean, I can see why they got rid of the witches thing, you know. It's kind of like, would a witch really go to school? Would she? Like, they might have like some weird, like, I don't know, cult thing or something somewhere, but like I feel like nobody would know about their school if they did have a school. So yeah, but don't worry. We got some antagonists and some supposed protagonists in here. So don't worry. The witches are out, but they bring some people to replace them. And then this whole thing that irks me the most is this barrier thing. So I'm still trying to figure out how this barrier works. So can humans not go in? But if humans can't go in, then how did that man go in on the first episode and he just went to go get his sheep or something like that? I think the sheep went into the woods. So I'm just trying to figure out if humans can't go into the barrier because that's supposed to break it off from the magical, you know, and the human world, which at first I was like, oh, well, maybe they're just not doing it like that and it's different. And they're not breaking it up from the human and the magical world. But no, they definitely talk about it. And they talk about where Bloom is from, which is the human realm. And so obviously they have a different, like they have things separating the two. So I'm like, so how did that man get in there? Because I don't get it. And other than that, so are you saying that the burn ones, so I get that the burn ones have to stay in the barrier, right? Okay, I got that. So humans can go in the barrier with the burn ones, is what you're trying to tell me. And then why is there no barrier at the school? So just if it's not a burn one, they can just come and go as they please, is what you're trying to tell me. You have no other defenses and your only enemy are these burn ones, is what you're trying to tell me. Like you have no security, nothing for this school. Like nothing. So that's my main gripe about that barrier thing. It's really kind of all over the place for me. I just, every time I think about it, I feel like I just have like a whole new thing that I think about when I think about the barrier, because it just don't add up. And that's the first thing that pops up in the show. So to be honest, it kind of just took, it took me out of the show before it could even put me in the show, because it's supposed to be an adaptation of Winx Club. So of course I'm going to compare it. I'm not comparing it like horribly, but you got to at least make it make sense. So the next thing is, before I really get to start talking trash about this, I would like to say that I'm not saying that Winx Club, the cartoon, was a masterpiece and shouldn't have been remade. I'm just saying, if you're gonna make it, at least make it better than the original that's for small kids. Like, I don't know who this show is for. It's supposed to be TVMA, but I felt stupider every time I watched a single every episode that passed by. I felt so stupid. Like I just felt dumber and dumber every time. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, so let me see what my notes are saying over here. So similarities. I'm gonna just say the similarities of the show. There's not much. There's not that many of them. But let's see. So most of them are there. Most of the characters that are there, like I said, the only person they really changed up was they got rid of Tekna, and the couple of characters look a little different. But I'm not gonna go there. But most people should know what I'm talking about. Flora number 2 is definitely not Hispanic. And Musa, I mean, I don't want to say that she's not Asian, but she don't. I mean, that ain't none of my business. But yeah, so I'm not getting into that. Everybody talked about that and the whole washing thing on the show. But yeah, so most of them are there. Maybe a name change or so. And yeah. Some other characters come in, but I'll save that until like later on when I start talking about like the plot points and stuff. So then another similarity is the dialogue. Dialogue's horrible in both the cartoon and in the Netflix adaptation. I'm just trying to figure out like the one thing for you to get right was the dialogue. How like it makes sense for the kids show to have like some cringy dialogue, because people think kids are dumb and they just put whatever they feel like in the show. So, but this is supposed to be taken more seriously, and you can't even take the dialogue and the way you introduce your characters and the way you start your story seriously. So, another similarity is Bloom's parents are still not her biological parents in this. It's a whole different backstory though, I tell you that. Stella's still a princess. And then Sky and Riven are in this. Now that I think about that, yeah, those two are in that. And that's all I can think of with similarities off the top of my head. And that's all I wrote on this list. So yeah, we're gonna go on to the next point. So now that I've gotten all of that out the way, I'm going to talk to you about this terrible, terrible plot. So, I really want to talk about how I want to talk about the beginning, the first episode. Not only this whole barrier thing that really seriously grinds my gears, seriously. Not only that, I want to talk about the fact that they wanted to introduce the show as being more serious with somebody dying automatically in the beginning. But to be honest, I could care less about that random guy who died. Like, I could have cared less. Now, what would have been more impactful is if we would have started out the show with Bloom with like a fire or whatever. Like that moment where Bloom okay, spoilers. I'm just going to say spoilers. If anybody cares. I feel like everybody has already watched this show, so it really doesn't matter. But if at some point you wanted to watch this show and you don't like spoilers, I'm telling you right now, I'm about to spoil this whole thing for you. So basically, I feel like the beginning would have been way better if it would have started off with Bloom and a fire. Like maybe like a fire, you're thinking it's just some random house fire or something like that. And then like it kind of being like where you don't really understand what's going on, because of course you don't really know the characters yet. You don't know what's going on, but you can kind of hint if you knew about the the cartoon that these are some of Bloom's powers or something like that. Or like you hear like a cry of something like her mom crying when she gets burned. And then Bloom's powers are awakened then. And so then it cuts. And then it cuts to this forest where this burn one or something like that has like awakened out of nowhere. And it's just like looking. Like I feel like that would have been like real ominous. Like holy crap. Like oh my God, her powers awaken. And then this burn one pops up out of the blue because of her. Like that would have been kind of cool type of thing. If you wouldn't have really understood what the heck was going on until later, but it would have still looked cool. But no, the show gives us some random guy with some sheep that we didn't really care about, and the burn one killed him. Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, I guess. And then the next thing that happens is we cut to Bloom, and she's at the school already. Don't even know how the heck she got there. But I guess it gets explained kind of sort of later. So, yeah. But then it gets to be like, oh my God, it's just so cringy because Sky, who, might I add, is not only just Bloom's love interest now. There has to be a love triangle of some sort, because you can't just have, one person be with somebody. It's always got to be a tug and pull where you have to fight over a dude instead of just finding the millions of other ones out there. I don't like love triangles. I'll be honest. I have never loved a love triangle at all. So his love triangle is with Stella and Bloom. And he's an idiot. He awkwardly talks to Bloom in the beginning, and it's just like cringy as crap. And so he's like halfway trying to help her, halfway kind of trying to embarrass her, but I guess he thought it was funny, so whatever. And then Bloom, oh God, the writers were horrible. She says mansplaining in this, and it's not in the context that would make that mansplaining. Like, basically Bloom does not understand the definition of mansplaining. It's like a kid who found a new word and now they want to use it, but like they don't know how to use it. It's like that. Oh yeah, okay, so before I forget, because I just completely forgot about this and the similarities. So Riven, I can't never say that dude's name right. I think it's Riven. We're going with that. He is actually the same like he was in the show as he is in this one. It's like they did get that right, to be honest. Like, I mean, he was a douchebag in the show. He was really petty, and he is absolutely the same type of character. I'm like, wow. So the character, did you like just see Riven, imagine his character, and then just be like, ooh, you know what we should do? Make every single other character just like him. Girl, boy, don't matter. At all of them, everybody, because that kind of brings me into my next point, which is the fact that Stella, who was really, really nice and sweet and always kind to people, even though she thought she was better than everybody else, but that's not the point. She was still nice. She is a complete douche in this. Like, I mean, oh my gosh, she dresses like an old lady. Basically everybody dresses like an old lady in this, to be honest. It's just not my cup of tea when it comes to fashion, and I just don't see whose cup of tea this is. I mean, maybe somebody's grandma, but yeah, I don't know. But back on point with the thing that Stella's a complete douche. I mean, everybody's a complete douche. I mean, nobody. This is what I meant in the beginning when I said that like the friendships were toxic or either non-existent in general. I'm gonna just go with non-existent, to be honest. They tried to bring it out at the end of the show. They were like all friends, and I'm just like, how? This whole time everybody was passive aggressive, angry, and or fighting, or either just used their friends, supposed friends, quote unquote, to get something that they needed. Like, this is not a friendship. That is like the most toxic form of friendship I've ever seen in my life. Like, Bloom, she's the worst out of them, to be honest. Bloom, ooh, God. Bloom. Listen, when I tell you that Bloom is like the worst person in this show, except for Rosalind, like, I mean, out of everybody, Bloom is like second tier to Rosalind. Like, right under her is Bloom in the evil category. Like, I promise you, I'm like, this is the girl that we supposed to like be rooting for? You trying to tell me that she is good? I'm like, somebody lying. Somebody lying. It don't get me wrong. I know that there's like gray characters or whatever. People, nobody's good or evil. So it kind of like goes into that. But no, she's definitely evil. So I'm at this point where I'm going to just talk about what's left in my notes, because if I talked about every single thing that happened in the show, like, we would be here for years about like how trash this show is. So basically, I'm gonna finish up with this episode 1, and go down the list of things that I put in these notes. So yeah, I said about the dialogue being cringy. Okay, so when we meet, dang, what the girl name is, Flora number 2. Yeah, when we meet Flora number 2, she, like, I mean, I don't know. She's weird. She keeps asking about Muse's powers, like, over and over again. Even after we meet her, and she does like this whole little thing where she chokes out Riven. Which, ooh, let me tell you, that scene was funny for all the wrong reasons. It was so bad. Like, the dialogue was trash. I just, like, she did not shut up that whole entire scene where she was choking him, and she just continued to talk. And it was like one of those things where, like, you obviously knew that she, like, sat down, wrote that on a piece of paper, set it in the mirror, and was like, one day I'm gonna say these lines to him. One day I'll know exactly what to say. That's one of those scenes. It was bad. It was hard to look at. I couldn't even get into the fact that she was like choking him out, and it was like, "Woo, go girl, yeah, he talked about you, he called you fat or whatever." Like, I couldn't even like hype her up because I was too busy trying to figure out what the devil is she talking about. But other than that, yeah, Tara, like, we're supposed to feel bad for her or whatever, because she's supposedly fat. She's not even that big, to be honest. But yeah, supposedly she's a fat girl, and we're supposed to feel bad for her because a bunch of people are like pretty trash to her. You know, you're wrong. I definitely feel bad for her, but it's the way that they did it, in like a way where like they're like, oh, we're gonna be a stereotype. If you hear that, that's my brother trying to talk to my other brother. But yeah, dang, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, Tara, I got her name. I finally figured it out. Yeah, so that's kind of just how that worked. It was odd. It was cringy. I just don't want to say cringy all the time, but that's basically like the gist of this show. But yeah, so she meets Musa and everything because they're roommates, and then she just continues to ask Musa about her powers, and it makes me very uncomfortable because it makes Musa very uncomfortable, because it's very apparent that once Musa tells her like how her powers work and how, you know, the whole thing goes, it's very apparent that she's uncomfortable. But Flora number 2 continues to ask her about it, even though she's absolutely made it clear that she does not want to talk about it. And this goes on like the whole show, like a lot. And then, so yeah, that annoyed me. They only talk about Tara being fat like once or twice. Yeah, that was the thing that I was supposed to be saying before I got off, before I went off on a little tangent or whatever. They only talk about her being fat like once or twice, to be honest. Like, I mean, they had this whole thing with her friend who turned to be her not friend, who turned out to end up being evil later on. But I think his name was Sam. Look, we will talk about Sam in a minute, because Sam is ridiculous. They could have just took his character out of that show, and it would not have even mattered. And I just really have I have questions. So for anybody who watched this show, what the heck was Sam's obsession with Beatrix? Because in the beginning, he was friends with Tara, and Tara was cool to him, and, you know, it was all good. And, you know, Tara had a crush on him. And then, you know, I think it was hinted in the show that he might have been gay. But yeah, so I don't know. And I think he had like a thing for Riven, to be honest. So when it came out that he was like obsessed with Beatrix, I was like, wait, you don't like Riven? So it was very odd. It was very, very odd, because it wasn't like, oh yeah, I like Beatrix or whatever, I'm trying to be with her. It was like, Beatrix is the only one who saw me for me. And I'm like, when did these conversations happen? Because the show didn't show me any of those. Now, I could have seen if Riven would have been like, yeah, Beatrix is the only one who understands me, who, you know, is like, yeah, I accept you for you. then I would have been like, yeah, they hang out in the room together. They're both like bad characters. Shoot, that makes sense. But this Sam guy, like, he's literally straight up devoted to her at the end of this show. And I'm just like, for what? Like, why? I don't understand. Oh, but to get on Beatrix, that girl right there, she's kind of cool. I kind of liked her character in the show because she was the antagonist, one of them. And yeah, I mean, she was fine. She was evil. They made her evil. They didn't have a hard time making anybody evil. To be honest, everybody in this show was evil. But she was supposed to be evil. And so it worked out for her. And she was cool. She was like chill. She had like this whole thing. She killed the man who was also working with her to be evil. Because the whole plan was to get Rosalind out to begin with. But yeah, so I'm trying to figure out, do I have anything else? Oh, I had a question about Riven being evil now. Riven, yeah, so at the end of the show, because I'm going to kind of skip around now. So at the end of the show, basically, there's this thing, Rosalind's out, blah, blah, blah. It's like the end of the show now, and everybody's, this whole shock factors coming into play, you know, the cliffhangers and stuff. And so Rosalind meets up with Beatrix, and then the Sam guy, who, once again, still don't understand why he was so obsessed, but whatever. He was like, yeah, you know, she's got a plan, and we'll be on the right side if we just follow her, such and such. And then Riven's just kind of there, and he just was like, oh, okay, guess I'm evil now. Like, it's kind of, that's how that happened. Sky, to be honest, he's kind of irrelevant. I try to forget that whole love triangle, but there was this whole storyline with his father figure being the guy who killed his dad, and then his father figure almost died, and then yeah, it was yeah, that's the person I cared about the most in this show, the father figure almost dying. I was like, dang, is he gonna die for real? Yeah, that's about the most that they got out of me. Now, to the main point of why I absolutely hate this show. Bloom, the character who we are supposed to adore, the one whom we are just supposed to like think is our hero, is the trashiest person ever. I mean, ever. Like, here's a list of the bad things that she's done. Dragged her friends into dangerous situations for the betterment of her. Not even thinking about anybody else. Being mean to her supposedly friends. Once again, she's just mean to them. If they don't help her out and help her find out her destiny and who she is and all this crap, then she becomes mean and she acts like nobody understands her or something. Basically lying to people and trying to break out a prisoner who killed someone, which is Beatrix. Which, it just, yeah. I don't know why you would trust some random person who just tells you information over the people who actually came to care for you and gave you a home and all that good stuff. But no, don't worry about it. Just trust this random girl who you know you should not trust. She basically tries to lose control so that she can have a vision of Rosalind, like maybe. Like, she knows that if she loses control that she could possibly burn down that whole school and then the whole forest and then like everything and hurt people. But she's like, but I want to know who I am. So I'm just going to burn down everything. Also, the whole thing where she almost hurt her friends when she was about to go break out Beatrix. Yeah, like, she almost set them on fire. And they were looking at her like, Bloom. And I was like, well, what did you expect when you have a sociopath for your friend? I mean, it's crazy. And then that whole thing with her and Sky kissing at the little that little area or whatever, but like she drugged him, and so she kissed him even though she knew that she drugged him. Oh my god, if that doesn't scream toxic, I don't know what is. And then they try to make it seem like everything is okay at the end of the show. I'm like, but if it was a dude and he had drugged a girl, then it would have been a whole big thing. But no, it's reversed, so everything is okay, and I'm like, that is not okay. It's not okay to drug people that you supposedly like because you want to find out your family secrets or something. So overall, I'm just really tired of like this show. I watched it all the way through, like the whole 6 hours basically. I'll give the show this. I watched it all the way all the way through. And I mean, I don't know whether that's a compliment or an insult, because usually when a show is good and it actually makes me care about the characters, I end up like not watching it because I have a problem with my investment in characters' lives. So the fact that I watched this all the way through, I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Let's see, anything else? I mean, the whole thing with Rosalind was something. I don't even want to talk about this show no more. It's been a week since I watched it, so something like I've completely lost like what the heck this show was about, to be honest. It's really forgettable. If it wasn't for these notes, I would not have anything to go off of. But overall, there was like some character dynamics, and I did record me talking about them, but I feel like it took up a lot of time. So if anybody wants me to talk about each and every single character, which I doubt y'all do, then I'll do that. But overall, I just never want to talk about this show ever again, and its craziness and its terrible ending. Oh wait, one more thing I gotta talk about is that ending where they all come back together and they all pretend like they were friends and like they weren't always passive aggressive to each other, and how they weren't mean to each other completely, and how they just it was just not the closest thing to a friendship was between Flora number 2 and Musa, and it was only because Musa ended up liking her brother. So yeah, the ending of this was like the burn. Well, let's talk about this transformation that Bloom apparently had, and these wings, them fire wings. Oh my god, they were trash. 1, 2, this transformation. You're supposed to change clothes when you have a transformation. It was like the whole signs of an anime type transformation. It was gonna be cool. It's gonna be epic. I was about to be like, wait a minute, now the show done did something right, and then no, she keeps on the same clothes. She's got a little fire in her eye, and that's about it. And some disgusting looking fire wings. Rosalind literally talked to her like once, and she awakened these random powers, which apparently she could not awaken before. I'm just trying to figure out, they say that Rosalind is powerful, and I saw her kind of being powerful when she snapped the headmistress neck, but other than that, I mean, she really didn't show much of anything. She wasn't super manipulative, to be honest. They just said that she was, and I kind of went along with it. I was like, okay, that's fine and dandy, but overall, I had like the little dynamic between Rosalind and the headmistress. I had like that. Though, quick question. Why the heck did they keep Rosalind locked away in the room, in the headmistress office, in the school? Why was she locked away there? Why was she not locked away somewhere far, far away where nobody could find her, or whatever? No one, like 1 or 2 people knew about it. So like if they died, they were it would literally be unknown to anybody. Yeah. And then another thing that pissed me off before I go, because I have to say this, because every time I start thinking about it, I think about more plot holes in this show. Why the heck didn't Bloom think that, hey, this lady's locked up for a reason. I wonder what that reason is. Other than the fact that I really want to know who my parents are, is it really worth potentially bringing out this lady who could kill us all? Because she's obviously locked up for a reason. Apparently the answer was yes for Bloom. I did. But this show was about kicking butt, bashing, and friendship. Yep. I'm done. Boys Club, I just give it I'm gonna give that a 1. It's a 1 out of 10, a 1 out of 100. It's bad. I don't know. There were like like I said, I was able to finish it pretty good, but that probably was because I just had no investment in anybody, and I was just watching it just to get it over with so I could talk about it and do this picture right here, because I really like the original show and I wanted to paint it and I wanted to have a reason to paint it. But yeah, overall this show is trash. It's what did my brother say? It's I cannot think of it. Dog water. Yeah, it's dog water. So that's gonna be all for today. Hope you guys like the the Winx Club whole thing going on there. I didn't say anything about the process because it was a hot mess and a whole Mod Podge of mixed media. But yeah, I hope you guys like it. Bye.